Hi, I'm Christy Tavani, your local neighborhood realtor, and this is Fair Oaks Live. We're doing a second take because we had problems with the Wi-Fi, but we're back. And I'm here with Dustin Buck of Buck Wealth Management. And Dustin has been here in Fair Oaks forever. He's been in business for over 20 years. And this year he won the Best of Fair Oaks for finance and wealth management companies. He's also the business person of the year in Fair Oaks because he does a lot for the community. And you'll see him if you come to Taste of Fair Oaks. He's always out there. He's one of our biggest supporters for a lot of the events that we have here in Fair Oaks. Just an all-around great person. I know you're humble, but I'm really excited to be here with you and to learn about the financial planning and what it is you do. So without further ado, I give you Dustin Buck.
Hello, well thanks for the opportunity to chat with you today, and hopefully I can provide your audience with some useful information. So appreciate the time.
Okay. And one of the things that I was thinking about was, one of the things you said to me too that I want people to know, this is the first office that you were in. You were in the village for a while, right?
Yeah, so
and then you came back over here, and you're on Sunrise, right next to Trader Joe's, and across the street from my office, which is Remax, but you're the Trader Joe's shopping center, but you're that big building right next to that shopping center. And it says Wealth Management on the front of it.
Yeah, I kind of came full circle. So I started nearly 20 years ago in this actual office. My mentor was sitting on the other side of the desk and helped me figure out how to try to be a financial advisor and coached me on how to door knock and meet new people. So it's really nice to come full circle, and growing up here in Fair Oaks and living here for most all of my life, I'm just very honored to have this opportunity.
Well, we're happy to have you. And one of the things, I did a little bit of research on what financial planners do, and my brother-in-law is a financial planner, and so I don't know everything, but it's basically you're like a guide to help people with their finances and give them advice and on where to turn, and you connect them even with professionals that can help them with build their wealth. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure, I really become more of a coach and a teammate for my clients and help them navigate any issues that arise in the future. So most everyone has some financial goals, whether it's short or long-term goals, and it could be paying off debt or saving for their children's education or planning for their retirement. So my job is to listen to their goals and then help them craft a strategy for achieving those goals. So I really work as really side by side with them and can hold my client's hand through the various issues that are going to inevitably come up in the future.
Well, that's interesting concept to think about, because a lot of people don't know exactly what a financial planner does, and they're a little bit intimidated by it, and they think, well, I don't have a lot of money, what are they going to do for me? Like, they might think that they need to have thousands of dollars to start off with, and they're going to come to you and you're going to grow their money. But you essentially could have somebody come to you and say, hey, I really need to get a hold of my finances.
Yeah, money and emotions are very closely tied together.
Yeah.
And everyone has a different background with money, and we've been taught since we were children to not talk to strangers about money.
Right.
So the only place we have to learn is through school, and school does not do a very good job of teaching education. So it's very emotional, and so about a third of what I do is more counseling than it is financial advising. And my mom was a marriage and family therapist growing up, and I remember asking her when I was about 14 or 15 years old, and she'd come home, she was stressed out and say, well, it's how's it going? She said, oh, this couple I'm working with, they're going to get divorced, and it's just really sad, and it's going to be devastating for their family. And so I asked her, well, how can I help reduce divorce? And my mom said, well, gosh, money's the number one reason why people get divorced. So if you can help people with their money, you can potentially help reduce divorces. And I loved numbers as a kid, and so I just said, well, I'll go do that. And that's the only job I've ever thought about doing since I was 15. And it gives me a pretty amazing opportunity to make pretty dramatic changes in people's lives and help them often achieve goals that they might not have had and been able to achieve on their own.
Right.
And probably a third of most meetings is more counseling than it is financial advising, especially with couples, just helping them get on the same page. And I found that it's not specifically money that actually makes people get divorced. It's really how people value the money. And, you know, I'll sit with a couple sometimes and he'll say, well, she's stopping at Starbucks and getting a mocha frappuccino for $8 every single day. And then she says, well, he's going to AM PM and gets a big gulp soda every single day. I say, well, time out. Are you guys putting enough money away for your retirement? Yes. Okay. Are you putting enough money into your children's college account? Yes. Okay. So everything else is just background noise. And those are the things that people hold on to and become resentful for. And so if I can help alleviate that potential pain, it can make a big impact in their lives.
Right. And it forces people to actually look at their finances and see where they're spending their money. And do they come to you and ask you, like, do you think we can afford to do this?
Yeah, that's often a question, because people just don't know the answers to a lot of these questions. And
like even a vacation or buying a car.
And a lot of people are embarrassed. Most people, when they walk in my door, regardless of how much money they have, are embarrassed. Because they're embarrassed because they feel like they should have done something else. They could have saved more money when they were younger. They could have bought that investment property years ago before the market went up.
Right.
So everyone has regret and everyone is feeling embarrassed, but none of that really matters. All that matters is where are you today, where do you want to go, and then how do we get there?
Right. Well, that's true, and it's people. A lot of times for everything. I mean, I think everybody has that sensitivity when it comes to their finances, and you know, like they might even think, you know, I don't want to come to him because he'll know that I don't have that much money saved, or I don't, you know, it's like opening up something, because a lot of times people don't even themselves want to open up their account and look at it and look at their statements and see where their money's going, and I think that's normal in this society. A lot of people, because you know, it's what I wanted to get to with that is that even if you don't have a lot of money, you can start somewhere, right? Like somebody could come to you and say, I saw you on Fair Oaks Live and I felt like I had a connection with you. I don't know how you can help me, but can we talk about it? Is that something that you could?
Yeah, so the main reason I got into this business is because I found that this type of profession can help people. It can help people achieve goals that they wouldn't have been able to achieve. It can help people have a much more efficient and nice relationship with their spouses. It can
have a plan.
Just help people. So I do love helping people.
And just having some kind of a financial goal, financial plan of something. Even if you don't have you probably have a lot more than we think we do. Like you said, people don't do something because they're embarrassed, but if they actually open it up and say, let's take a look at this, you could probably look at what they consider a mess and say, look at a plan that they could follow, and 10 years from now they'd be in a place that they would have never imagined or dreamed that they could be in.
It's true. And so, but not everyone needs to hire a financial planner to be able to create a financial plan. Right. I recommend that everyone creates their own financial plan. And there's some best practices that people can use when they're thinking about their own financial plan. So the first thing that people should do is they should think about, what are their financial goals? What are your short-term goals? What are your intermediate goals? And what are your long-term goals? So short-term goals could be, gosh, we really want to pay off this credit card, or we really need to open an IRA account. And then an intermediate term goal might be, in the next year to 3 years, I want to buy a new car. So how do we think about planning for that purchase? And then a long-term goal could be, I'd like to retire when I'm 60 years old, or I'd like to put my child into college in 15 years. So coming up with an idea of what are your goals is really the best place to start. And that's where most all financial advisors will go immediately when they first start talking to a prospect is, what do you want to accomplish? What's really important to you? What are non-negotiables? Because my biggest fear since I started this business has been, I'm going to get to the end of my relationship with a client.
Yeah.
And that might be when I'm retiring myself in maybe 25 years or so, and then my daughter will take over as their advisor. But if we get to the end of that relationship, or if I'm sitting there holding their hand and they're on their deathbed, or I'm just about to retire, and I ask them, did you do everything that you wanted to do in life? And if they say, oh my gosh, Dustin, no, I never took those trips that I could have taken. Look, now I got all this money. My kids are too busy to hang out with me. My grandkids think I stink and they don't want to even come in the room anymore. And I'm too old to travel. I can't do those things. Gosh, I would have retired sooner if I would have known how well I was doing. Mm-hmm. So my biggest fear is that clients are going to have regrets in the future financially. So I'm always bugging them to help me understand if your goals changed, if your priorities changed. And then the second thing you need to do is you need to plan for taxes. Everyone needs to plan for taxes. Taxes
now. Yeah. I think people are regretting that now.
Most of California is in a disaster relief area, so they have until October 16th to file their taxes.
October 16th? So we actually have a little bit of an extended amount of time this year?
Correct. Not everyone in California does, just most disaster relief areas.
So you have to know what county you're in. So where would we go? So you probably go check with your county and see if you're in a disaster relief area.
And the Franchise Tax Board on their website will tell people. But if you don't have an accountant, often hiring an accountant, it doesn't have to be a CPA, but there are a lot of great enrolled agents that are out there helping folks with planning their taxes. And usually an accountant can find opportunities to help someone save money to help justify the cost of the accounting.
And even help plan ahead to know things that maybe we don't, when we're doing TurboTax and we don't realize that there were things that we could have done to save some money.
Very common.
Because people are doing that because they don't want people to know what their finances are.
It's true. It's true.
It all comes down to that.
The next thing people need to do is they need to create an emergency account. They need to have an emergency fund. And the rule of thumb is to keep at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved in some sort of account that you can go get access to in case a tree falls through your roof or you have a problem with your transmission. So if you're spending $5,000 per month, then a good savings plan could be to try to build to $15,000 to $30,000 of liquid money. I have some clients I work with that have $10,000 in a liquid account. They know they have larger other assets that they can quickly get access to, and they're happy. I have a couple old clients that have, if they have less than $100,000 in their checking account, if it's $99,900, they can't sleep at night. So everyone's different there, but building an emergency fund is the best thing that people can do to get started. After that, it's just making sure that you manage your debt. Do you know how much money these credit card companies are making in interest per year off of all our friends and family and other people who have credit card debt?
Well, like 26%?
Yeah,
I don't know.
20 to 25% is often. Yeah, they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, if you think about it, if your credit card rate is 20% interest, that means that the balance you owe is going to double in less than 4 years. Yeah. So how do you ever pay off a credit card that's 20 or 25 or 30% interest? It's very hard. So putting your liabilities on paper so you can see what it is, knowing what interest rates you have, maybe paying off the highest interest rates first. It's just a good strategy. Is always just keep a pulse on what your current debt is.
So you have to look at it.
You have to look at it.
I'm trying to be to represent everybody because there's there are people that are, I mean, even for myself, sometimes it's like I know when everything's good, and then there's times because I'm a realtor, and sometimes we have breaks in between the amount of times that we sell a property, and and you're there thinking about the expenses you have and everything, and having to look at it and pay attention to everything, and also budgeting everything really well to make it last.
That's true.
So
That's very true. The next thing people should do is they should have a protection plan with their insurances. Now, the insurance industry is the largest revenue producing industry in the world. I think they make about $5.5 trillion of revenue per year. And people buy insurance because they think something bad is going to happen, right? You only buy life insurance because you think you're going to die. And they only sell it to you because they don't think you're going to die. in that time period you have the insurance. So it's a bet against the insurance company, but it's important to make sure everyone has basic insurances in place. This could be a disability insurance policy, so that because you're much more likely to become disabled than you are to die, substantially more likely. And a lot of people forget about it, especially my small business owners or my business independent owners. Mm-hmm. They need to have some sort of disability insurance in case they get sick, and because that happens. And the next thing that people should be thinking about too is long-term care insurance, because besides taxes, the number one expense that my clients are having now and will have in the future is likely going to be healthcare expenses. We've got 70 million baby boomers coming through retirement. We don't need beds and care for 70 million people now, but we're going to need more care.
Right.
And if the average person needs about 3.5 years of care in their lifetime, and it's about 1 out of 2 women will need care, and 1 out of 3 men, because women live longer and men jump off ladders and do goofy things. And so it's often, if I'm looking at a couple, I'm saying, hey, 1 of 2 of you are going to need long-term care insurance, and you're going to need it for an average of, according to the Department of Insurance in California, 3.4 years. So in today's dollars, that's a couple $100,000 that someone could end up needing for long-term care. So thinking about if you're not going to buy the insurance, which is really expensive, because it's a 50-50 chance of needing it, right? How much is your homeowner's insurance? About $2,000 a year, and they'll write a check for $500,000 if your house burns down.
And then if it rains and your electricity is out for 5 days, they'll give you like $500 for your groceries. Yeah, so
it's just good to have a good insurance game plan and make sure you have a good insurance agent that you work with. Right. The next thing to do is to plan for retirement. So you're right, to touch on a point earlier, the hardest part about saving for retirement is writing the first check. It's putting that first deposit into an account. Once you do that and you set it up so it's automatic and you're paying yourself first each month, then it becomes much easier, and it's a habit. Investing and saving and budgeting, these are all just habits.
Right.
So the best thing to do is get started.
You don't need those shoes.
Yeah, it's in moderation. Everything's in moderation.
Well, yeah, because that is, we end up, thinking that like, oh, I'm doing well, and we spend more money on ourselves and we enjoy ourselves, which is good. Mm-hmm. It's good to do that, but those are also important things to do too, is to put that money away.
Yeah, as long as you're thinking about the future. Most people don't think about it until their mid-40s, late 40s, or even 50s, and by that point it might be too late to be able to achieve all their goals. So the earlier you can start, the better, just because of something called compounding interest. It's like magic. It's the money you make each year then makes more money for you the following year. So rather than increasing your accounts in a straight line, compounding interest causes exponential growth in the future. And so it's a great thing to do. Get started early, even if it's $100 a month, $50 a month. It doesn't matter what dollar amount, it's just getting started.
And you could even take that money and invest it like in real estate or something if you wanted to build more wealth. And I'm not saying it like come buy real estate. I mean, like you could be building something up that you could use to increase your wealth down the road. Like you're building it. It's not putting it into something that you would lose it, but you're taking it and putting it into something like earning compound interest, or something where you could buy a duplex or a fourplex or flip some properties or do something that you could actually build more wealth with, and then put, keep money in there. So those are things to think about.
It's great to diversify.
It's great to diversify
your assets.
If you start thinking about it, you start getting ideas and thinking of more things that you could do, and making this a priority and putting it in your mind. Like, you put your thinking cap on, and open up a drawer and put some room for that, because like you said, we don't talk. There wasn't a class when I was in high school, and we took general business, and it was like how to open a checking account and pay your bills or do reconcile a bank statement, but there was not really much about mindfulness and financial literacy. I think it's something that we really need to have in our educational system more.
That's true. And how do you achieve a goal? Right? So if you think about a goal, okay, I'd want to pay for my child's 4-year education. be great. My child's 1 year old. I'd like to pay for it if I could. So the chance of that happening is probably about 20% if you just think about it. And if you think about it, and then you say, gosh, I'd love to pay for my child's education, and I'm going to write this down. I would love to pay for my child's education. Then the chance of that goal becoming successful is probably 50%. And then if you think about it, okay, I'd like to pay for their education. I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to tell someone about it. I'm going to tell a friend or a family member or a financial advisor or someone who can hold them accountable. The odds of that goal is now 80% of successful.
Right.
So anytime you have a goal in life, if you think about it, it's 20%. And if you do something about it, you write it down, and you tell someone, it's 80%. So if you really want to get something done, you got to do the extra steps other than just thinking.
And even if you do small steps to get there, just a little bit of, what you can afford. I think if you did anything, if you just started, you open that account and put whatever you can in it, you would start feeling like you say you get to that next step, that next level. It becomes possible. That's the whole thing, is you're attracting it into your life and it becomes possible, and you start seeing more ways to do it. Just like when the reticular activator in our brain, that there's so much information happening around us at all times that our brain can only take in a percentage of it, and it's what we're focusing on. So that's what we see, and we pull more into our lives because we're seeing that. But if you open your mind to investing and putting your money into an account or something, or to think, I want to pay for my child's education, all these ways of doing it start opening up to you, and that becomes like a normal thing now. And you probably have conversations with other people that are doing the same thing because you're open to seeing it and paying attention to that. Like seeing a red car everywhere. You buy a red car, see red cars. You have a baby, all of a sudden everybody's got babies, so you're just noticing more. So like what you said about that, it makes it more possible because you're bringing it closer and closer. You're really aligning yourself with it.
Yeah, that's true. And the last thing people should probably consider when they're doing their own personal financial plan is to have some sort of estate plan in place. You don't have to be married, you don't have to have children to have an estate plan. I think everyone should have an estate plan, because we all know at some point we're going to die. And more than likely, we're all going to have some kind of incident happen or an accident happen where we're maybe not dead, but we might not be able to still control our assets. So having something in place, something in writing, a legal document that states who is going to be able to help out and who would step in for financial matters, who can write a check to my mortgage company on my behalf if I'm in a car accident, and then who can help out making healthcare decisions, and who gets to decide at what point do I get healthcare, what point do they stop giving me healthcare. And more often than not, people say, oh, my sister will take care of that, or my brother, or my mom. But if you don't have it in writing, it sometimes doesn't happen the way you want it to go.
And sometimes the state can even decide. And even if people are married couples, people automatically assume, and like you say, it's going to be my son or my husband. Even with that, it's not a guarantee.
It's true. And so, going to an estate planning attorney is a great place to start, to be able to figure out, what do I need? What can I do to try to help deflect any potential issues that come up in the future with estate planning? And times to think about your estate plan and revisit doing an estate plan are when large changes happen in life. So this is maybe when there's significant changes in income or assets, when you have a baby, if you adopt, if you get married, if you get divorced, if you're buying a second home. Those are just some times when you'd want to think about revisiting your estate plan.
Okay.
Perfect. So,
look here. We were having a really good conversation.
I can keep going.
And then we had kind of a little.
I can give you some ideas, because it's often when people think about coming to an advisor, they're often intimidated or they're scared, because there's a lot of greed in this industry. And there's good and there's bad in every industry. And a lot of folks either have had personal experiences, or they've heard about experiences from people who have had a bad financial advisor, or bought horrible investments, or a Bernie Madoff type of situation. So there's some things to think of that individuals can do if they're going to go see a financial advisor.
Like, don't just be like, oh, I've got this thing I can get you into because maybe the financial advisor is has something that they're going to make a lot of money off of if they can get a lot of people to buy into it.
Correct. So how do you determine if you found the right financial advisor? So the first thing that everyone should do is they should list out their assets and their liabilities before they ever go see a financial advisor. Have a good, clear list of where your money is and what money you owe. Second thing people can do is have a very good idea of what their income is now and what their income is going to be in the future. So try and determine what your Social Security income will be. That's going to be helpful. And you can attain that by going to ssa.gov and printing a statement. You can write down your goals. That's very important. When someone comes in, that's going to be the first thing I ask is, what do you want to get accomplished? What's on your mind? So writing down your goals. Again, that will also help increase the chance of success. You should also think about your own financial strengths. What are you good at and what are you not good at? I have some clients that come to me and say, I'm really good at saving money monthly, but I'm really bad at picking the investments. Great. If you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, then a financial advisor can help leverage those strengths and help out with the weaknesses to make sure you have a good plan. You should bring all financial documents. Account statements are extremely helpful because I can quickly look at it and within a minute I can say, gosh, this is a red flag. I don't know why you have this. I don't want you to be in this. Whether you're a client or not, this is not a good investment. So it's always good to have your statements available. And then bring in a list of questions. So I love it when a client asks questions about their situation, something they've heard about. If they ask to try to learn about what it's like to work with a financial advisor. So I tell people, bring a list of as many questions as you can that you want to know the answer to prior to deciding if you want to work with an advisor.
So can people get in touch with you to have a consultation to decide if they want to work with a financial advisor?
Sure. Yeah, we offer no obligation, no cost consultations. But the most important thing I think people can do also when they come to their first financial planning meeting is be prepared to be vulnerable. I'm going to ask questions, or the advisor you're going to sit with is going to ask questions. They're going to drive at things that are really important to you. I keep a box of tissue right under my desk because often within 5 or 10 minutes, I'm asking about their goals and what's important and what are you going to regret in the future? What is really driving your decisions and what are you up at night thinking about that's bothering you? So within 5 to 10 minutes, a good financial advisor can really figure out what motivates this individual and what are they really needing to get to the next level. So those are some important things to think about and to do prior to going to see an advisor. And then when you see an advisor, there's some basic questions, and these are some questions that people have given me over the years. And other questions sometimes clients will ask, well, what else should I be asking you? So things that you should ask every advisor you're planning on working with is, first, are you a fiduciary? That's a really common buzzword now that's going around the industry. A fiduciary is also like an attorney. They have a legal responsibility to do what's in your best interest before their best interest at all times.
That's the way we are too.
Yeah, so as a fiduciary, financial advisors have to reveal any conflicts of interest. They have to be able to be clear with you about how they get paid. What are your fees? They have to certify every year that they will legally do what's in the best interest of the clients first, rather than their interests. And advisors can be held liable in civil court even after they retire for decisions they're making as fiduciaries.
Yes.
And to know, and you'll know if your financial advisor is a fiduciary if they're a certified financial planner. So that's the top certification that a financial advisor can attain, and you have to have at least 3 years of experience. You have to have a 4-year college degree. You have to pass a 6-hour exam, and there's about a 50% pass rate for that. But by becoming certified, an advisor becomes a fiduciary. So I would always ask people, are you working with a fiduciary? Because if you're not, and you have your life savings with someone, and they don't have a legal responsibility to do what's in your best interest first, there's too much room for error.
Yes.
And I've seen some good people turn bad in the years I've been in the business just because of greed. And it makes people do weird things. So make sure you're working with a fiduciary. Another thing you can ask the advisor is, how do you get paid? How does the advisor get paid?
See, I wanted to ask you that, but I was kind of shy to ask.
No,
because people are funny about money, you know.
Yeah, and it always comes down money.
Yeah, because that's what people are going to think. I want to go, but I don't. Yeah, so tell us.
Well, no, it's very and ultimately, a phrase that I love is, if money is not the answer, please repeat the question. So anytime you think of, well, why is that company doing this, or why is this happening? There's probably money involved. So it's good to ask your advisor how they get paid. Some advisors are commission only. Some advisors are advisory only. Some advisors are transaction based. Some advisors are simply life insurance or insurance agents, and that's the only thing they can talk to you about. Some advisors are proprietary advisors, or have to stay in-house with their investment choices. So it's good to know from your advisor how he or she gets paid. Another thing to ask is, how many clients do you have? Because I've seen advisors, and I know advisors that have 1,000 clients.
Wow.
And how do you make an impact as an advisor in 1,000 people's lives? You can't make a very big impact, really. So, finding an advisor that's managing a comfortable amount of clients, it could be between 100 to 200 clients, and that's maintainable for an advisor. But you want to know if your advisor is going to have time for you.
Right. He's going to have time. He's going to remember who I am.
Yeah, you can ask them how many clients they have, and that's important to figure out if where are you going to fit in that potential mix of their clients. Another thing is, what do they specialize in? So there are some advisors that specialize solely in retirement planning for teachers, and so they work only with one school district to help just those teachers. Other folks have specialists they specialize with divorcees, or they specialize with women, or they specialize with small business owners. So it's important to find out, what does your advisor actually specialize in, if anything? Because it's hard to be a master of everything in this industry.
Well, it's like who do you really connect with? Like the same with real estate agents or most professionals. You find that you find your niche. You find who is your client. Like, I know the type of people that I love to work with and the type of clients, and I tend to attract those clients, and they're just wonderful. And so I have it in my mind, like who they are, what they're, what personality types, just everything, because they usually come to me and they're the type of people that are knowledgeable enough about the market. They don't argue about everything. They listen to me as a professional, and they respect my time, and they are just wonderful people that it's hard, once it's over with, that you still want to stay connected in some way. And as soon as one is finished with, I tend to get somebody else that's just like that. So I know, like, when I'm marketing and advertising myself, who I'm talking to, and those are the people that connect. So I would say it would be the same thing, and that's really good, because as a financial planner, you want to be able to connect with the type of people that you can mesh with, and because they're listening to you, they can understand you, and then you're able to help them. You can't help somebody that isn't the right fit.
Yeah, and as a realtor, you would probably agree that the best way to help someone out is not just them calling and saying, hey, I want to buy a house. I want to buy $1 million house, right? So it's taking the next steps, establishing a relationship.
Right, you got to find out what are, like the same thing, what are their goals? What's the most important thing to them? What are the things that are non-negotiables? What are the things that they could do without? Because we want to narrow everything down so that we can get them what's on their list. And then when we are looking at places, we can say, they can come in and be a little confused and overwhelmed, because if you're looking at a lot of different homes, and then I can even say, well, remember, you wanted this, it has this over here, but it doesn't have such and such that you really wanted, and that was one of your non-negotiables. And that kind of puts them back into, the mindset of like, oh yeah, you're right, because you don't want them to be overwhelmed or distracted by something that when they get into the property and they realize later, I really wish I had that window that looked out in my backyard, because I really don't like, this in my kitchen or whatever, because they just they got over like the bells and whistles or whatever, something else attracted them, but it wasn't one of the most important things that they wanted. So just like you're saying, you've got to look at, when you're looking at what do they want to accomplish, it's and keeping them on that path, because we can all get distracted.
That's true. It's true. So having a relationship that's a long-term relationship, that's usually where an advisor feels like they're giving the most benefit to individuals as well. And it's very similar to real estate. And you can tell if a realtor is has a lot of relationships and has long-term relationships, their clients are probably more satisfied than the realtor.
Yeah, you want them to be. I mean, I love the people I work with, and it's not just about because I like to help people. It's because this is something that I'm good at, and I'm good at working with people to help them accomplish their goals. And like you say about being a coach, you're the guide. We've got all the information. We can make sure that they're educated enough to make those choices and decisions and feel confident about what they're doing, so that they're not second guessing themselves, and then they can go into it. And if something happens, they're like, oh, I really don't like this. Or, I mean, I have clients sometimes, call crying because they, decided that this really wasn't what they wanted. And I'm like, that's okay. That's okay. We can get out of it. This is why we have the time we can do inspections, and you have the time to think about it. And, and then they find the one that's perfect for them. And I always tell them that, this is for you, and I'm here to help you. It's not about, you're not putting me in any trouble. My fiduciary duty is for your best interest and for you to be happy, and that's the same thing. And it is nice to have that connection. That's why I'm passionate about what I do, and I really, I go through the hurdles and the uncertainty and everything to do this job, because I can't imagine doing anything else.
That's great. I mean, ultimately, we're both in the customer service business and in those relationships. So, it's also important to ask your advisor that you're thinking about working with, what products and services do they even offer? And often I'll have a client that'll come to me and say, hey, I went to see this financial advisor, and within 15 minutes, they were telling me about these indexed annuities that I should buy, and they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I can take it out for college or for retirement, and they think it's amazing, and it's insured, and I'll never get back less. And so I always try to figure out, with clients, I try to get them to think about, what is this advisor really trying to do for you? So if they immediately start talking about insurances and their insurance products they have, then they're probably an insurance agent. And if they have services and products that make sense to you and you can understand what they are, then that's great. Because often someone will come to me and they have purchased something, a product of some sort, and they say, I bought this thing, my advisor said it's the greatest thing, what do you think? And I look at it and say, this based on your needs is not going to be suitable for you. This is not a good thing. Well, it was maybe the only thing the advisor could even talk to them about, if they're a captive insurance agent, for example. So if anyone ever starts talking to you about these great annuity products you should buy within the first 5 minutes of a meeting with a financial advisor, turn around and run. Probably not in your best interest. So, another good thing to ask is what the advisor's investment philosophy is. Are they a day trader? Do they buy options and commodities? Do they think they can time the market? And do they think they got insider information and they can do better than professional fund managers? Or they buy and hold. Do they buy quality and hold it for a long time? Are they somewhere in between? So it's always good to try to get a good feel of what is the investment philosophy of the advisor you might work with. Because if your philosophy doesn't match their philosophy, there's going to be too much conflict through that relationship, and it might not be a good fit.
And not a good experience.
Yeah, because advisors are not always the best fit for everyone, right? It's just personalities.
So you can interview different advisors to see who you feel comfortable with.
I love it when someone interviews other advisors when they came, because that means that they're serious about finding the right person. Now, often, most of the time when someone comes to me, they were referred by a friend or a family member, and I ask them, well, how'd you get here? And they said, oh, Jim told me I have to talk to you. So here I am, I'm talking to you. What do we need to do? So it's not, I don't get people coming off the street to come talk to me, and those are not typically the best type of clients that I can help. Often referrals because people, my clients
Right.
know what the best type of client fit is.
That's right. Most of my business comes from referrals too.
Another thing to make sure you're very clear about with advisors is to figure out what kind of communication are you going to have. What kind of communication do you need as the client? And is that going to be acceptable to work with the advisor? Because some advisors only work by phone, some only work by in person, some only work virtual. So everyone has a different way that they run their business. So making sure you have a clear idea of how are we going to communicate moving forward. Because when they ask advisors every year, I see these studies and they say, if you like your financial advisor, what do you like about him? List these things 1 through 10. And the bottom of the list, every single time I see these studies, what do you think clients say is the thing they don't care about the most in their relationship?
Talking to somebody, seeing them in person, I don't know.
Yeah, good. So it's rate of return of their accounts.
Oh.
So people, individuals, when they're interviewed, say rate of return is not as important as the number one thing is always communication. Is my advisor going to be available when I call? When the stock market has a huge crash, is that the time he or she happens to be taking a vacation and is not going to be accessible? Are they going to respond in a timely manner? Are they going to communicate with me with something that's going to make sense? Or are they going to talk above me and talk about things I don't understand? So making sure you're really clear about what that communication will look like up front is very important.
Like maybe even reaching out to the client if something happens and say, hey, I just want you to know you don't have to worry. You'll be okay.
Yeah, that's often one of my most important things I can do is just telling clients, hey, this thing that is happening right now, whether it's the pandemic or the war or whatever other crazy things are going to happen in the future, because that's one thing I can pretty much guarantee people is that crazy things will continue to happen and you just have to keep rolling with the punches. So if I can help someone understand, hey, I haven't seen this thing happen before, but I know that if you're positioned well for this or you're not positioned well, so maybe we need to make adjustments, but I just want you to know I'm watching your money. I care about your money. I have a fiduciary responsibility to always do what's in your best interest first. And if you need anything, that's a good time for you to reach out to us. But we're often more proactive in our firm trying to reach out to people to let them know what's happening. And it's training clients too to understand what's important and what's not important. But having a relationship with your advisor where you feel comfortable reaching out if something happens in the future, or if something you're doing is just not working, or you're running into some sort of roadblock and you think the advisor just either needs to know about it or might be able to help out. Those are times I encourage clients, don't feel bad about reaching out to your advisor.
I was just thinking I could see a married couple, one of them calling you and saying, to get your okay for something so they can go back to the other one and say, Dustin says it's okay. It's okay if we could do this.
I've had clients do that before and tell me things that their spouses don't know. I know things that their best friends don't know. I often figure out eventually which child they like best and what keeps them up at night. But those are the types of things that someone can tell me or help me understand about them, or help their advisor understand about them, that are really important, that might not make the advisor say, okay, you're really scared about running out of money in the future because your parents ran out of money and you saw how stressful that was on the kids and you don't want to repeat that for your kids in the future. Okay, that's super important to know. Now, I might not take that information and go say, okay, let's sell these 2 stocks and buy these 2 stocks. But the next time a crazy thing happens in the world or in my clients' lives, I might talk differently to this client or help them differently, knowing what their experience and what their history has been with money, whether it's good or bad or ugly or really ugly, and then I can give them better advice. So the more, again, that kind of goes back to the more vulnerable you can be with your advisor, knowing that a good financial advisor will never judge you. They're not going to look down at you. They're not going to look at your credit card statement and say, oh my gosh, you spent $1,000 on DoorDash. How much money, where did this Amazon purchase go? Advisors don't actually care about where you spend your money. I have clients that spend money in the weirdest of crazy things, but it's their money and they get to do whatever they want with it. My job is just to tell them if they're spending too much money or if they're invested improperly, and so I become more of a guardrail for my clients.
You just want to make sure that it's all being allocated where it needs to go, and then whatever they want to do with that is not your concern. But a lot of people that need your help are desperately in need of the help and don't realize it, or they realize it but they don't come in because they're embarrassed. But then you're just now saying to people that you don't have to, it's okay to be embarrassed, you can be vulnerable. I'm used to it. It's like going to the doctor, you've got something you need to get help with, and you've got a professional that can help you and help you get to where you need to go, and so don't ignore it.
But it's scary.
Yeah, I know.
It's scary. I had a woman came to me probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I had her sister as a client for probably 5 years before that, and her sister had said, gosh, you really need to talk to my sister. She desperately needs help. She needs you. And so she said, can you please call her? And so I call and just say, hey, I'm Dustin Buck. I can help you. Here's my phone number. Just give us a call if you need anything. And then she reached out, scheduled an appointment, and missed the appointment for some reason. And then called me, and I didn't bug her at all. Called me back maybe a year later, scheduled another appointment. She said, I think I'm ready, and then missed that appointment. And I think she missed 3 appointments in about a 5 or 7 year period. And
sabotaging herself.
Eventually, she sat at my desk, and she was sitting there like this.
All tied up.
Closed up. I'm just, hey, did I offend you? Did I say something wrong? Did I never bugged you, but did I do something wrong? And she said, okay, I got to tell you, I would rather go to my primary care doctor and take off all of my clothes than I would go to talk to a financial advisor. That's how much I fear talking to you. And for me, that was another another instance where I said, oh my gosh, money is so personal to people. So I said, okay, you don't have to take off your clothes. It's not that type of meeting. But I appreciate when my clients are open with me. And it's a very scary thing because there's a lot of bad greed in this business. It's very unfortunate my challenges are helping clean up the industry to some extent of the bad, and there's always going to be bad. Again, if money is not the answer, please repeat the question. So people will always keep trying to figure out ways to make more money, but just being open and vulnerable and just knowing what you don't know and being okay with that, that's a great first step when you go talk to an advisor.
Well, I think we went extra long on this one, but you know what? No, this was really good information, and I think that if you've stayed, I'm sure you got a wealth of knowledge, because this is very interesting. I think this is something that's really important to know. It was, you might see me at some point even, but because it is something that's very personal to people. And I've known you through the Chamber of Commerce and through events and things, and I just think you're one of the kindest, nicest people. I love your daughter and your wife, and you guys are. I trust you. I think that you're an honest person. I really trust you, and I'm glad that you're part of the Fair Oaks community. And I think that if you want to get more information from Buck, I do this. I think I have some form of dyslexia. It comes out in my when I do
a lot of people call me Buck.
I do the thing every time. I thought I was going to get through this session without doing that, but I didn't.
Great.
But anyway, if you want to get a hold of Dustin, they can contact you. Do you want to give your phone number, or do you want me to?
Sure thing. Our phone number is 916-579-5160, and then our website is www.buckwealth.com, BUCKWEALTH.com. But I hope that I was able to at least give you some ideas on what you would talk about with a financial advisor and how to make that type of relationship successful. Because there's plenty of other really good financial advisors, even in the Sacramento area. And I might not be the best fit for everyone. And I know I'm not the best fit for everyone. So the best things that people can do is just take a look at your situation, If you're not 100% comfortable with what you need to do, then just start building your plan. Reach out to professionals. The idea of comparative advantage. Do what you're best at, and then hire other people to do what they're best at. So that's what I encourage people to do.
So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll put his information in the comments section. And if you have any questions or anything, reach out to Dustin, and we'll see you. I'll probably have some more things and some stuff that you can do. But thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Till next time.